serves. You're always partial to the Chevelle, yes?
All right. Got another project. Doing like 3-4 things at the same time, so trying to pull all the videos together, but still working on the cross member. Just can't find a drill bit that'll drill through it. Still working on that. We got a standstill. I'm still trying to drill through that. In the meantime, I'm gonna work on this LT2 intake. So, due to the fuel pump location, I have to do modification underneath. I had to grind down right there in order for it to fit. So before I even remove that old intake, I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. Right now I'm in the process of removing the cover and everything like that. So I'm gonna get that done and then we're gonna go from there.
This is what we get.
So that's the top of a Gen 5 LT intake. You flip it over, of course some of these bolts are gonna fall out. Flip it over. See that little area right here? I'm gonna have to grind from there down. Well, I think it might be the other side. So from this section, that's the front. Then yeah, so it'll be this section right here. I'm gonna have to grind that out and make enough room for the fuel pump over there. So I'm gonna get that done, then I'm gonna check in a little bit. All right, we had a little change of plans. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove this L8T intake first, because I have to grind that down. I know I have to grind it down, but I want it to be precisely fit. I don't want to grind down no extra stuff. I don't want to guesstimate and everything like that. So what I'm gonna do is, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this, and then after I remove it, I'll tape the ducts up and everything like that to it, and then go back and modify the LT2 intake. So right now, this is what we got. I'm gonna work on this. All these bolts seem to be 10mm, so I'm going to work on getting those done, and then we're gonna go from there. So check in a little bit. All right, I got the cover off here. So this is the L8T cover. Probably pretty much just almost similar to the, or if not identical to the L86, or I'm not sure about the L83, but this is the intake. So we have our bolts. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side, and you can see the fuel pump inlet right there. So that's why I have to drill and grind that area out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that ground out. I'm gonna get the intake removed, and then we're gonna go from there. So check in a little bit. All right.
I'm gonna use some compressed air to blow this intake off of first. It's real dusty. And dusty, as you can see. Now when you got to fall down into the hole. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to Got it getting blown up. I got one more bolt to remove, and that's right here. So I'll remove that final bolt, and then, well, I got two more. I got one right here also. I'm gonna remove those last two bolts. After I remove those last two bolts, I'll remove the intake. So let's see how it goes.
All right. Next, I got all the bolts removed, and you can do this whatever steps you want, but this is just how I chose to do it. I got the intake just sitting on here. Next, I'll remove our clamps. All right, so we have two clamps and holders right here. So I'm gonna remove those two, remove that, and then the hose. So I'm gonna do that next. Check in a second. All right, I've completed removing all bolts, all clamps, and everything like that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the intake. So intake is removed. That's a Gen 5 LT, L8T intake. You can kind of see the difference. This will be up for sale or trade, so if anybody is interested. And on to the next step. So I have to remove this cushion piece. So get that removed. So we got that removed, and you can see the fuel pump right here. So this is the area I have to grind off. But first, just for safety of the motor and everything like that, I'm gonna run some tape across the intakes. I don't want anything to get into it. We already got stuff that looks like it wants to fall in. So we're gonna make sure that is good to go. And then after that, I'll air compress it. Probably air compress it again just to get the nook and crannies and everything. And then I'll do fitment for the L8T. So we'll see how it goes. I'll check in a second. Not L8T, but LT2 intake. So give me a second, I'll check back in. All right, we have both this is a Gen 5 L8T intake, and that is a Gen 5 LT2 intake. As you can see, they're very similar in size. This is the throttle body, and the throttle bodies are pretty much identical, as you can see, other than those bolts that are in the middle. This is the other side. I would have to take that intake off, which I'll take that off in a second, just to make sure or see how it looks. So give me a second, let me take that off, and then I'll check in a second. All right, I got the throttle bodies off. These throttle bodies seem absolutely identical. I don't see anything different about them other than those screws in the middle. And the Corvette one, the C8 intake has a lot better finish than this one. It might be a couple millimeters larger, but they seem like they are the identical intake. As you can see, the inlet, the one on the LT2, they appear to be about the same also. Other than that, this is the comparison. Of course, with the LT2, you're getting a much better finished product. You know what I mean? So that's a much better finished product. Once you slap the cover on, of course. So that's a comparison. On to the next step, which is grinding down the fuel pump area of the LT2. So check in a little bit. All right, you can see I got it kind of lined out with a highlighter here, but all this area I'm gonna have to grind down with my Dremel tool. So I'm gonna grab the Dremel tool first. I'm gonna use my snippets here and try to cut some of these off first before I get started, and then I'm going to use the Dremel tool and try to grind down as much as possible. So I'll check in a second. All right, you see the little area I got my snippers, and I snip, and I kind of got a pair of welding pliers here and pulled the little areas. Next, that's about all I can get with that, but that'll soften it up and make it a little easier with the Dremel tool. So I'm about to go back in with the Dremel tool and then see what I can remove. So checking in a little bit. All right, I used the Dremel tool and I got this area shaved down nicely. I believe I have to etch out an area for the actual fuel pump, but what I'm going to do is first I'm going to place it on the motor. Then after I place it on the motor, I'm going to readdress and see, because I think it's a little area within the intake. I have to go slightly deeper, which I think is like this general area, but I just have to make sure. So I'm gonna check that out and then go from there. All right, this I test fitted, and this section right here has to be notched out. So I made 2 marks. So I'm gonna have to go from here, basically down, over, and up. So we're gonna see how it goes. Check in a bit. All right, I got this little section. That's where the fuel pump is at. So I got this little section Dremel down. I'm gonna test fit it. I think I'm gonna have to go a little lower than that, but I'm gonna test fit it and then see how it goes. So I'll check in a second. All right, I got it painted up. Spray painted it a little bit in that area that I grind down. You see, this is my final product. It's being on, so we're gonna do fitment and then on to the next step. The part numbers are, let's see, got 74, and the part numbers aren't identical. So they are, that's the part number for the L8T, and then that's the part number for the Corvette LT2. So there are different part numbers. I'm thinking it's something internally that might be a little different. Maybe that affects throttle response. So I'm gonna go with this just in case it's something to do with throttle response. But as far as diameter, it's exactly the same. So I'll check in a second. All right, I'm still in the process of doing the LT2 intake. Right now I'm transcribing. So I had to move the bottom canister down here off. Next I have to remove the sensor, and it goes to the middle of the intake. So I'm gonna get that off and then transcribe it over to the LT2 intake. Check in a second. So I got the sensor off the L8T. This sensor goes in the middle of the LT intake, LT2 intake. So got that right there. I'm gonna have to cut that bolt down, so I'm gonna leave that bolt up. Bolt that down, and that's all our sensors. I got a torque down. First pass 45 inch-pounds, second pass 89 inch-pounds. I have to look up the torque specs for the intake, so if anybody knows the torque specs of the intake for LT2 and Gen 5 LT, put it in, if you can just leave a little comment. Other than that, it's in. I got to put the cover on. I'm gonna get this bolt. I think I'm gonna have to. That bolt didn't go all the way down, and I'm not gonna force it in that plastic. So I might have to cut that bolt down. But I'm checking in a little bit. All right. This is our first placement of the LT2 intake on the Gen 5 LT L8T. Boom. Of course, I still have to put the wires on, but there it is. It looks beautiful. It's a great looking intake. As you can see, I might paint it the color of the car later on down the line. But that's a L8T 6.6 with the LT2 intake. So I'm probably gonna bolt that down, and it looks good. I just got to get it wired up and everything. I have a couple wires to run to get it straight, but other than that, it looks pretty good to go. I enjoyed this process. I'll try to get the wires straight. I know it's a couple wires I have to run to it still, but other than that, it looks great. I wanted this intake pretty bad. It was either LT2 intake or LT4 supercharger. So I like this better. I wanted to go NA with the TKO 600. So it came out good. On to the next event. Thanks for watching.
You better be careful with that donkey, shorty.
Excuse me?